Reddit. What is the weirdest thing you ever seen at work? This happened to me last night. I work at Best Buy and noticed a young couple, probably around 20, walking around but very, very close to each other. The guy is wrapped around the girl from behind with his hand down the front of her gym shorts past the last knuckle on his hand. One of the other employees goes over to tell them they have to leave since we got a few complaints about them. The girl immediately starts crying and tells the employee that it's okay, she just had an abortion, and her boyfriend is helping hold the pad they gave her to prevent blood from leaking everywhere. They talk for a minute or two, and it ends with the guy offering to show the pad to the employee as proof, which he declines. The employee walks back to me with this look of horror on his face and recounts the entire thing to me. To top it off, the happy couple is there with their grandmother and mother. The mother is very obviously either high or very drunk and is playing tag with another customer's son in the cell phone section. Turns out they were all at the store to get the girl a new cell phone to make her feel better. When I worked at an ICU in a big hospital in Germany, I once had a patient who fell from a ladder while cutting a tree. He had broken arms and legs, and they were dealt with fast at the ER. But one thing he forgot to mention, probably because he was ashamed. He fell on a stick to grow roses on, like 1.5 meters long, which penetrated him at his perineum, found his way through the guts up to his diaphragma, which was punctured and made the lung collapse. He pulled it out himself and called the medics, but told no one of it. Luckily, he got an CT scan and it was relatively fast found, so that the problem with his breathing could be fixed. But every time I think about it, my whole body cringes. I hope I'm not too late to the party. I created an account for this. Well, about 3 years ago, I worked weekends at a bar. It was an upscale gay bar, and we usually had a good crowd. As a barback, I was pretty low on the totem pole, and spent my nights running cases of beer from the basement up to the bar. Well, one night, we were pretty busy. As I was coming up the basement stairs, employee-only area, an older gentleman opened the door and began walking down. I didn't have the time to stop him at the moment, and sometimes the owner's friends would go down to the basement to use their phones or whatever. I told my friend and coworker about it, and he kinda brushed it off. I kept up with the rush until I needed to run more beer. I asked my coworker to come with me in case the man was still down there. I'm of the female persuasion, by the way, and I got a weird vibe from the guy. We descended the staircase together and turned the corner. At this point, we could see straight back into the liquor store room. The man had stripped naked, borrowed a Kahlua bottle, set it on a cardboard box, and was using it for some anal play. He was slowly going up and down on the top of the bottle, flaccid penis flopping about. This image will be forever ingrained in my memory. It was closing time at the Goodwill I worked at a couple years back. All employees do a sweep of the store to make sure no one else is in there before we lock the doors. It is a pretty large Goodwill. I noticed that there was a light still on in the bathroom, which I had the pleasure of having to clean that night. I let everyone know that somebody, and not an employee, is still in the bathroom. I kindly knocked on the bathroom door to let said patron know we were closing. Then a voice from the other says, "You can come in." A bit weirded out but guarded with my mop, I turned the handle to enter the bathroom, only to be bitch slapped in the face by the foulest smell I have ever encountered in my entire 19 years. Standing in the middle of the washroom, almost like walking in on a child after they had gotten caught doing something bad, stood a woman of nearly 400 pounds, covered in her own shit. Shit splattered on the walls. Shit splattered on the floor. Shit splattered on the sink. Shit was everywhere. The shit queen proceeded to apologize for the mess and said that she must be going now, leaving shit footprints with every step she took. It took me an hour to clean the whole bathroom. I got a 25-cent raise the next day. Fatty shat all over herself in a public restroom. I worked at a Quiznos for 3 years back in high school. Despite the fact that the owner/manager sold prescription pills out of the back, 3 out of the approximately 10 employees at the time had criminal records. Think assault, and were still in high school. And one of the employees joined the Marine Corps and went AWOL at the in-processing station after taking the oath. This story involves an ancillary character. I don't have a name for her because she never offered one, but we were 80% sure she was selling sex out of our parking lot. A random man in a van would pull up occasionally, after dark, and she would disappear inside, only to be sitting in her car once more when we checked up on the situation. She would come in from time to time, sometimes to buy one of the really cheap menu items, but mostly to use our bathroom and avoid eye contact. So one day she came in and made a beeline to the bathroom. 5 minutes go by, then 10, then 15. She finally emerges, looking dizzy and uncomfortable. She quickly scurries out the door. I know something is up, so I ask my female coworker to check out the bathroom. She slowly opens the door, immediately shuts it, and begins dry retching. I walk over, open the door, and am met with the ground zero of feces. It's like someone threw her a ticker tape parade in the bathroom, only instead of paper, they used a gallon of shit. There is doo-doo everywhere, all 4 walls, the sink. It looks like she dragged her ass like an itchy dog from the toilet bowl to the door. The toilet itself. It's as if she used a knife to ice it like a cake. I quickly shut the door, instruct my coworker to get a piece of paper and a marker, lock the door, and put an out-of-order sign on it. We remove the sign when we leave that night. Minimum wage does not cover this apocalypse. My manager had a really gross story to tell us about the bathroom the next day. We really wish we could have seen it. Prostitute probably takes too much heroin and explodes her anus in a Quiznos bathroom. We sneakily fool the owner into cleaning that shit up. When I was a teenager, I worked at a Little Caesars pizza place. And let's just say the management wasn't really concerned with cleanliness. The floors were half-assedly swept and mopped so that the corners collected great mounds of congealed cheese and olives, and the crevices in the make lines were veritable bacteria orgies. By far the foulest thing I ever experienced there was one day, when I was still fairly new. I was going to retrieve some bleach rags from the back. You know, rages soaked in bleach water to sanitize stuff. I noticed the great stainless steel basin had a pretty big mound of dirty ones. And being the naive little shit that I was, I decided to take it upon myself to get them all rinsed out and sent to be laundered. No sooner had I peeled back the 3rd or 4th of these things did I realize I was looking at a pulsating mound of bleach rags. I wasn't sure what to think, but the fucking things were undulating like your parents' waterbed. Curiosity piqued. I gingerly fingered one last rag when, bam! Maggots. Maggots fucking everywhere. An orgy of huge, fat, suckling pigs of maggots, inexplicably riding about in the bleach rags. Needless to say, I left them alone for some other poor asshole to deal with because I was too nauseated. Apparently, someone had cleaned up a bunch of sausage that fell on the floor, and instead of just putting it in the trash, they decided to leave it in a bleach rag to serve host to a housefly fuckfest. Mercifully, I was fired a month later for oversleeping and being late to my morning shift. I worked for a small flower company back in high school as a delivery driver. The store itself always got a shitload of orders, but the product that I delivered was always crap. This was due to the owner being insane. To paint a picture, he was a 40-year-old man that looked exactly like Weird Al, and only wore jean shorts, a wife beater, and Hawaiian shirts. To top it off, he was addicted to painkillers. When I say addicted, I mean he was snorting OxyContin and popping Percocets constantly. I came back from a delivery one day and my boss was in the bathroom making the most disgusting noises. Suddenly he bursts out the door screaming. I looked over and he had blood covering his hands and face. He was grabbing tissues trying to smother the blood spilling out of his nostrils. He ran up to me and said that I had to take him to the hospital because he had blown part of his brain out through his nose. I was really confused until he, with blood still pouring out his nose, showed me a piece of toilet paper with the most disgusting 5-inch long. I can only describe it as some sort of clot in his sinuses. That he had someone blown out his nose. He wasn't lying when he said it was his brain. A woman who I worked with had major issues. She went through some type of nervous breakdown. She worked for the president, who was the most demanding person I ever met. And she had an eating disorder. The woman weighed about 95 pounds soaking wet. She wouldn't even drink water. She also hoarded stuff in her car. It was packed with trash and shoes up to the ceiling. The president put her in an eating disorder clinic for 8 months and brought her back. She still neither ate nor drank. She fell asleep constantly and couldn't even function. The president made everyone take turns being her lunch buddy to make sure she ate, where she would spit food into napkins after each bite. Then we found throw up in a Ziploc baggie in the freezer when they were forcing her to eat. We would also find her standing in random offices in the dark, just staring in the corner at the wall when she would be missing for an hour or so. She also would order $1,500 worth of shoes at a time, at a size 2 sizes bigger than she actually wore. After 3 years of this, I couldn't take it anymore and told them that they should move her outside the corporate office to another location and provide us with an employee that could function. We couldn't take off when we wanted or go to lunch when we wanted because we could never leave her alone. I was reprimanded and written up by HR and then pulled into an office 3 days in a row where some big dude screamed at me for over 2 hours. I ended up leaving the 4th day because it was such a hostile work environment.
If you like this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss a new upload.